What's up, everybody? Jed here at dieselcrew.com. Of course, you know they call me Napalm. Just sitting here at my office having lunch. Just watched a video. As a lot of you know, I'm a pro wrestling fan, and these days some of my favorite things to watch are like interviews and things like that, where the wrestlers of yesteryear talk about their careers. So, what I just watched a minute ago, and hope you don't mind if I continue to eat. Got some chicken here. Um, I just watched. It was called Table for Three from the WWE. Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard. They're three of the original four Horsemen, and they got talking about some strength and conditioning topics. So that's why I felt moved to shoot this video. Um, and it has to do with a lot of it has to do with cardio for pro wrestling. Now, I'm not a pro wrestler, but I am a strength coach. So I feel like I'm qualified to talk on this, even though I've never actually been in a ring. But what caught my attention was Ric Flair was talking about how there was two guys that he could name that were always in great shape, could always go for long matches, 30 minutes plus, but they never did any cardio. And those two guys were Triple H and Arn Anderson. So maybe there's a prospective pro wrestler watching this video, but I think there's really many different kinds of cardio. Cardio is used to describe a lot of different ways to train, and a lot of times I think that in Rick's case, far be it for me to question Ric Flair, but I've heard him talk about this a few times. The other one that he has mentioned in the past is is John Cena never does any cardio. Well, I also remember when Rick went back to WCW. I think it was '94, the Starrcade event. He was going to wrestle against Vader, and in one of the interviews, he was on a Stairmaster, and they actually talk about a Stairmaster in the video that I just watched. But he was looking at the camera. He's doing his Stairmaster, and he's like, "Not even breathing, brother. Not even breathing. I'm gonna run you around the ring." Stuff like that. And I remember, I've watched it a couple times since it first happened, and I remember thinking, like, I think he used to be on that for an hour, and it never matched up to me on a Stairmaster, or maybe a Stairmaster would work pretty well, but like to do like an hour of cardio, like a jog, or get on the treadmill, or ride an exercise bike or something like that, never made any sense to me, because the cardio that wrestlers need is being able to drop down, get back up, run around, do the ropes, do a couple maneuvers, keep moving again, and that's all like really demanding. And if you were I think you would be making a mistake if you were doing an hour of cardio on a bike or jogging or something like that and expecting it to carry over. While I never went into pro wrestling, I did prepare for a wrestling tournament when I was in college. It's actually why I have wrestling shoes and why I lift in wrestling shoes to this day. But my friend and I, we were going to compete in an AAU wrestling tournament. I had never wrestled, but I was into lifting, so I figured since I was into lifting, I would beat everybody. Clueless. But what we did is we ran steps for our cardio. So there you go, more steps, Stairmaster. But I guess the first point of the video is like the cardio that you should do should be high demand cardio, almost along the lines of conditioning, really pushing your heart rate high, things like that. And then the other thing that came up during this video I just watched, Arn Anderson started talking, and he said he started talking about the wrestlers today not being in ring shape. And I thought he was going to start talking about cardio, but he was actually talking about the fact that when he was a wrestler, they wrestled like 330, 350 days a year with very little time off. And the wrestlers these days will do like, I think he said 3 to 5 days in a row, and then they get 2 to 4 days off. And he said because of that, they don't get into ring shape. Well, honestly, like I don't really notice a lot of guys being all blown up and they can't breathe and stuff like that in today's wrestling. I still watch every episode of Monday Night Raw and almost all of the SmackDowns. I don't put a lot of time into the other leagues just because I'm limited on time. But I don't know. I don't ever see, maybe I'm missing it, but I don't ever see like today's wrestlers like sucking for wind or being out of shape or like back in the day, Hogan and Ultimate Warrior would have to do like a headlock, a rest hold in order to and sit there for like 3 to 5 minutes in order to catch their breath. I don't see a lot of that these days. Maybe I'm forgetting, but I guess Arn wasn't totally talking about cardio. He was talking about how your body gets used to getting beat up and whacked, and he talked about the body kind of turning into a full body callus because of hitting the ropes, taking all the bumps, going through all the high contact and the trauma to your body, and how it leads to this callousing effect of your body so that you end up toughening up. And so he wasn't totally talking about cardio. He also talked about how because there's so much time off, he thinks that it leads to more injuries these days. Whereas, when Flair and Tully and Anderson were wrestling back in the day, they didn't get a lot of time off, and he said that I guess I'm kind of inferring that he meant that they also didn't get injured that much because they were toughened up in this way. So I thought the conversation was pretty interesting. Those two parts of the conversation were interesting due to my interest in strength and conditioning. And I wonder if wrestlers, prospective wrestlers, independent wrestlers, people that are going to wrestling schools, I wonder if they're preparing incorrectly for wrestling by choosing the wrong cardio. I think probably cardio based towards high school, college wrestling, MMA, things like that would be better suited for preparing to become a professional wrestler. I know when I was considering joining a school in 2015, that's what I was ready to do because I consulted with a guy named who wrestled under the name Pitt for quite a time. And that was the advice he gave me. And that made a ton of sense to prepare more like a mixed martial artist rather than just, improving your cardio. He talked about like running back and forth, doing like shuttle runs in order to mimic bouncing off the ropes and doing up downs, getting down on the ground, getting back up, things like that, sprints, lots of high demand stuff, things along those lines. And that made a lot of sense to me. So I don't know, just a topic. I'm interested in hearing what you think. Feel free to share and leave it in the comment section below. All the best in your training. Make sure to subscribe. Give it one of these, guys. Take care.